But I had to say, what is my niche? And so some people, we're always talking about a niche market. There are some people are luxury, some people are rentals, some people are neighborhood. So I chose the government space as my niche. And then when I did the research, there are only about maybe 4 or 5 companies that are potentially certified and maybe one that's pretty active. And I'm certified as a minority business owner, a woman-owned business, and a disadvantaged business. So all three have different designations, and wherever you are, you can probably Google that term, and it stands for MBE, WB, DBE. You can Google those terms of where you are, and it'll tell you the procurement process or things of that nature. Because here in the state and city, most contracts that come out of the government, no matter what it is, has a requirement of about 25% minority and 5% women, or they say 26 and 6. It's a lot of construction firms that traditionally is the construction space that people think of when they think of minority certification. But I took it to a different niche market. And my background in corporate America, I used to work in commercial real estate. So the good thing about that is I do have colleagues in that space, and every major commercial real estate firm has a department for government contracting. So that's typically my contacts. And so I'm not heavy on social media when it comes to looking for business, because my clients are not found on social media. Not to say that that is not necessary, but I know that is a huge niche market for a lot of agents, but I just seem to have found mine in the government contracting space. And then I just wanted to be more responsible for my time. Government agencies work 9 to 5, no weekends and things like that. I wanted to be more of professional services as a business. And that's not to say that's my only line of business. That is my greatest line of work now, because I've worked and dibbled and dabbled enough to have investments. I'm a landlord. I'm an investor as well, to kind of have a toolkit for success outside of business from a financial perspective, because I know that's very important as entrepreneurs.
Welcome to the Real Estate Proverbs Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Jefferson, and today we have a very special guest, Miss Sarah Ware. Very special. How are you?
I am doing outstanding this sunny summer day in Chicago.
That's awesome, awesome, awesome. So, Sarah, I was introduced to you by some of our past guests, Miss Carrie, and the conversation that you and I had blew me away. Not only did it blow me away, I let my wife listen in, and you gave me permission to put her on speakerphone.
Yes.
And I felt like you were such a wealth of information. I'm going to do my best to keep this within an hour.
And I will do my best to answer your questions directly without veering off into another podcast topic. So those are always,
You're always welcome to come back. You're always welcome to come back.
You know what? Hey, we'll see if anybody wants to. If I have anything that people are interested in hearing, then I would love to come back, talk to you anytime.
We got it. So, Sarah, for those who don't know who you are, let's give us an introduction.
Okay, I'll do a quick intro. My name is Sarah Ware. I am the owner of Ware Realty Group here in Chicago. I am a licensed real estate brokerage firm, so I'm the designated managing broker here. I specialize in some traditional residential sales, but right now it's mainly traditionally friends and family. But my main focus is government contracting. And when I say government contracting, working with city and state government entities on real estate matters, whether that be acquisitions, dispositions of property, some leasing, whether that be, I just worked on a lease with Cushman for a housing authority here in downtown Chicago and things of that nature. That is typically what I work on, in consulting for government agencies as well. I'm now currently working with the city of Chicago on their vacant lot program, and I'm working on that with CBRE on revamping the whole strategy behind that. So it's like an 18-month with a potential to extend. So I spend my time in that space for the most part.
So if you're listening, you see why she's a wealth of knowledge. Like she's
I want to keep
talking
it
about
quick.
she's talking about real estate in different forms that we
Correct.
normally are not in as African American or Black real estate agents. I'm not even sure what the new term is, but African American, Black,
Right.
people of color.
Well, and to piggyback off what you just said, we are what there are 1.56, I think almost 1.6 million realtor members of the National Association of Realtors, not licensees, because that's probably a greater number. But in that, once you dial it down, like in Chicago, we have about 50,000, a little over 50,000 realtors in the state. Chicago, where I am, of the association that I am, actually, I'm the president-elect of the Chicago Association of Realtors, and I will be the president as of October 1st of this year. But I had to say, what is my niche? And so some people, we're always talking about a niche market. There are some people are luxury, some people are rentals, some people are neighborhood. So I chose the government space as my niche. And then when I did the research, there are only about maybe 4 or 5 companies that are potentially certified, and maybe one that's pretty active. And I'm certified as a minority business owner, a woman-owned business, and a disadvantaged business. So all three have different designations, and wherever you are, you can probably Google that term, and it stands for MBE, WB, DBE. You can Google those terms of where you are, and it'll tell you the procurement process or things of that nature. Because here in the state and city, most contracts that come out of the government, no matter what it is, has a requirement of about 25% minority and 5% women, or they say 26 and 6. It's a lot of construction firms that traditionally is the construction space that people think of when they think of minority certification. But I took it to a different niche market. And my background in corporate America, I used to work in commercial real estate. So the good thing about that is I do have colleagues in that space, and every major commercial real estate firm has a department for government contracting. So that's typically my contacts. And so I'm not heavy on social media when it comes to looking for business, because my clients are not found on social media. Not to say that that is not necessary, but I know that is a huge niche market for a lot of agents, but I just seem to have found mine in the government contracting space. And then I just wanted to be more responsible for my time. Government agencies work 9 to 5, no weekends, and things like that. I wanted to be more of professional services as a business. And that's not to say that's my only line of business. That is my greatest line of work now, because I've worked and dibbled and dabbled enough to have investments. I'm a landlord. I'm an investor as well, to kind of have a toolkit for success outside of business from a financial perspective, because I know that's very important as entrepreneurs.
Got you. How did you get into real estate?
So I was always fascinated with real estate. As a child, I would always read the newspaper. And for those that may not know what a newspaper is, the news that comes on your phone, it used to be in papers that was delivered to your house. And so I grew up as a family. We read the newspaper, and Sunday I was always excited. They had like a crossword puzzle. So I would be fascinated with just real estate, not knowing that, where that path would lead me. In corporate America, I went from out of high school, I started working immediately. I didn't go to college as a traditional sense. So mine was just a little bit of I ended up going to work right after high school, and just did research. And then I started attending home buyer seminars. I think I was like 19 years old, was fascinated with the process. I grew up in a house, so I just assumed that was just the way it is, that you go, you do what you see. So I ended up assuming that you just buy a house. And so I thought that I was 19. I ended up in my first apartment, because I had never lived in an apartment. My friends would talk about apartments. And so I'm like, oh, that seems like something cool to do. But then I did those things called taxes, and I had no kids. And I was like, what's happening here? How do I work all this time and have no, I don't get any money back, and people are getting refunds? And so I was just fascinated, researched, real estate from the perspective of how do I buy a house? And so I bought a house. I think my first condo was like 21 because I had to submit a lot of paperwork because didn't have a lot of assets. And that was before you were graded on, you bought a house on FICO scores. So yes, those that are listening, there was a time when you were not judged on your FICO score. So it wasn't, I don't think FICO scores, it may have been out, but I just remember writing a letter about something why I didn't have as much credit, but they took, they looked at your history and work, and it wasn't through a program. It was just a regular, I think, bank. Bought a house, bought a condo, thought I was live there forever, put some money into it, bought it for 60,000. Sold it for 100,000 4 years later. I thought it was rich. I'm like, 40,000. I was about 25, 26. Bought another condo, new construction for like $175,000. I thought that was like $1 million. Sold that 4 years later and made 100,000. Bought the house that I'm in now. And I thought I was going, I didn't go into it with flipping it, because I tell people, buy something because you like it, because you might end up with it forever. And I still hold that rule no matter what the market is doing. So I bought a house, rehabbed it. I was going to sell it because it was just me, and I'm still here. But since then, my house has probably tripled in property value. So longevity is the key. And so that the reason real estate interested me from a purchase side is because I didn't go to college right after school. And so I said, well, how can, and that was always, you go to college, make a lot of money. And I was like, I was making money without student debt. And my friends were coming home, staying in my condo, like, what's happening? So I saw that as a path for wealth and for building wealth. And that was the shortest way to do it, not going away to school. And it's not that I'm not an advocate of college, because I did go and got my associates when I was working, had my job pay for it. And I actually just returned during COVID because I am trying to surprise my parents to finish up my bachelor. So I have like one more semester left, because I think education all around is important, no matter what form it comes in, whether that's educating yourself. Like you went to a podcast seminar. Like, I think education all around, you should always be learning something new. And I decided to go back to school during we're still in a pandemic, so to speak. I wanted to come out of that with some wins for my business. And since I'm in school now, I am applying so many things to my business that is going to help me. And so from a service side, getting involved in real estate for my license, I went through the process. And like a lot of people that are investors, I think, get their license first. They do it because, you know what, I wanted to get faster access, so to speak. And you may not have felt you got the service that you felt was deserved to you. And you say, you know what, let me just do this. I got my license only with the hopes of being an investor, and end up quitting my job, my corporate job. I think I have been an entrepreneur without a paycheck from a corporation since 2007. So I left corporate America in 2007 with the mindset I can find another job, because I was smart in my mind. And ended up becoming a full-time realtor, and working for a couple of developers. And so 2007, if you ring the bell, that's when the downturn of the market. So that's when I actually started a business with a business partner. We had a partnership for almost 8 years. That dissolved. And then I came and kept the business growing under me. So, and then from that, I got involved probably maybe 5 or 6 years after I got my license with committees and advocacy for membership and consumers, because I think we're always thought of as realtors in the industry just of wanting the check, going after the commission. But I come in from a business perspective, because I think when they talk about different laws and advocacy, because I'm always fighting for the underdog people in underserved communities, a lot of buyers that may not have access to information. And so, on the news, they may post something about housing and inflation, but actual inflation, people were still buying homes at 18, 19%. So I think they want to ring a bell of panic. But if you don't educate yourself and come out of it from a financial business perspective, you will get caught up in the news media soundbite of the week. And so I don't look at my business as a soundbite of the week because it is my profession. And I tell people, if you don't invest in yourself by knowing all that you can about any a business that you're associated with, you're doing yourself and your clients a disservice, because clients, especially now in this information wave, you can Google everything. But again, I'll mention again, like you went to a podcast seminar, everybody can Google and see what it takes to be a podcast, but I'm sure going there exposed you to so many other things in that conversation with other people, kind of exposed you to a different site. And so now I go to the conferences. And when I say, for the National Association of Realtors, my local conferences, and I'm heavily involved in the advocacy piece of that, which I'm very proud of.
Gotcha. So what year did you get your license?
1997.
97.
I was still working in corporate America. I was working for a commercial real estate firm and got my license in 1997.
Okay.
Oof.
Yeah.
Right.
25 years.
Yeah. Oh.
25 years. It's
Thanks.
amazing. So much to unpack. So I'm gonna paint a picture.
Okay.
97, you received your license. We're still in corporate America.
Yes.
Right. But you also sold commercial real estate you were in corporate real estate, right?
I was in corporate real estate, and when we were working on, it was on Michigan Avenue. And I worked for the division that did a lot of office leases, what they call the tenant rep side. So they were representing a lot of tenants for downtown office space, like attorneys and just professional services businesses that wanted to go into office space downtown. So I was on a team of individuals that worked in that space, not as a lead broker, but on the team as the admin staff. But I saw the money being passed.
2007, you walked away from corporate America.
I did.
And from there, did you go into commercial? Did you go?
No, I started residential. I started particularly in residential because I was fascinated with residential because I'd never. And people at work was like, "Why would you do that?" So yes, I started in residential sales.
Yes, and how did that fare for you?
I did really well. I was a top producer. Got awards. It's a lot of work. But again, I looked at that from a different lens because in 2007, when we started our business, we were even asked to certify our business as a minority and a woman-owned business right away. Usually you have to wait a year, but we started the process probably 6 months in, and we had received our certification before the year was up. Because when I say they, I mean the city of Chicago said, you know what, you all are doing things that, and I don't know, was it because our approach, because when we were meeting with developers, it wasn't like, hey, let's sell your house. It was more of like a business meeting. We were talking about, inflation and like the trends of the market and just looking at it, special. And I think the word got out, and we did some property management at that point.
So what was it that, well, you kind of explained it, but like, tell me how the business meeting went with a builder, because the city doesn't just approach a business owner and tell them to do that. So there had to be something unique that you guys did. So
my business partner, she was a consultant at Deloitte. Okay. So she was a business consultant, and I was the fast, quick, and consultants, they take a step back. So, right. They take a step back and kind of whiteboard everything. I was not a whiteboarder. Like, I've learned to be more of a whiteboarder, and they look at the process. So they start with, why are we doing this? Let's answer these questions first, as opposed to me. I'm already at the finish line. I'm at the closing table. But when you take a step back and talk about the methodology of you getting there and you explain it to your client, they understand that better. And then you make sure that their mission and your mission are aligned. Because I think that's even important today when I'm one-on-one with clients, because if my mission is not aligned with you, we may not serve together well. We may not get to the finish line in a way that's advantageous for both of us. Because I think sometimes, I'm sure a lot of realtors that their clients are driving them crazy, or it's like, oh my God, they may not gel. And you may not gel with some of your clients, but sometimes when you take a step back and start at the methodology and they get to know you as a person, and then through how your mind works from a process oriented standpoint, they have a respect for you that you took the time to talk about their business and investigate things that most people may not even investigate. Like we're Googling, we're like, okay, we were real intentional. What is their logo? Let's make sure their logo shows up on the marketing materials, even when we were pitching a PowerPoint presentation. Let's make sure, like they said this, okay, what's important to them. You're finding all these things out on the beginning, even if it's just one house. We wanted to make sure, like, hey, let's be all in about this, and just make it a professional meeting, professional business meeting. So those are things that I learned, and I'm not saying I would have not learned that in corporate America, but corporate America decides what they want to teach you. When you're an entrepreneur, you get to decide what you want to learn and go after it. So I know that I wouldn't be where I am had I been sitting behind a desk, because they'll decide, they meaning your boss, and then you may work for a boss that may not be competent, and you may not feel they're competent, but you're at their mercy. So that's when I knew that I had to make the shift.
So you always hear about get certified, small business owned. Disability was the first time I had heard that term. But those things you hear.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, I don't know if nobody does it. You talk about it and you hear how great it is.
We talk about it. We put out, there are people that put out, hey, I can get you certified, pay me, all these things. And I think we need to take a step back and say, does certification work for me in the business that I do and how I do business? So I tell people to take a start and go and look up your small business development center, SBDCs we call them, and they are free for customers, and you are the customer. Take a look, and then it'll make you think from a business mindset, because we're thrown into real estate as a person, and people don't understand you're running a business. Like, you're a business person from day one, whether you know it or not. Accounting, marketing, IT, like you're your own business. Yes, you may work for a brand that has all these tools behind them, but you're figuring out what works for you. And so whatever your strategic marketing or your strategic plan is, from a business plan, if you have one, then that decides if certification is right for you. And then the other side of certification, is certification right for your business? You may have a service that is not heavily marketed for certification. And so I think people, and then it's a lot of work. Like, I'm constantly meeting with people. I mean, and it's funny because I was talking to my first bookkeeper, and I have invoiced over $1 million just in certification business alone. So I'm trying to see if it's $1.5 million. But I, like some years I've done $300,000-$400,000 in just certification, in just my business certification. And the government is the largest holder of real estate. So, and I'm not saying real estate from an acquisition. The space I sit in is the only space. Property management is huge. Like, and you can get on different types. If you're in IT, that is a huge market. So I say, look for this, whatever you're in, try to be that niche market, and don't try to be everything to everybody. So I stay in my niche market, and it took some time for me to get to that. Like, I think my clients are telling me what my market is, but certification may work and it may not, but it's worked like anything else. And when I say that, to say you can look under public sector and private sector business the same exact way. As we were just talking about, private sector pays faster and it still pays, but you still have to make sure that it is something that's right for you and your business, because it's time consuming. And I don't know how big people's teams are, but I have an admin person that is virtual, but I choose to do that just for me because it works for me in the business that I have. I plan on extending my staff as it grows, but I feel, I'm doing fine, just me, but you have to figure out what works for you, your family, and your business and your goals.
How long have you been in the government space?
So ever since I've been in business. Since 2007. Well, I worked for a firm that was certified as a certified company. My business has always been certified ever since I've been in business. And so that has always been a huge part of my business. At first, it was maybe 20%. Over the years, I'm about 80% now. So it's growing to 80% of my business, and not just one client. And because I've been in it for so long, I understand different things. I'm networking. I'm a hard networker. And my clients refer me to other clients looking for people that work on certain contracts.
So are your contracts only in Chicago area?
In Illinois.
Illinois.
Because I'm licensed in Illinois. I'm currently licensed in Georgia, and I'm looking at. I met with CBRE. I'm trying to look at some stuff doing there. My mentor has he's a construction company, very large construction company, and he's certified here in Chicago. Now he's in Atlanta. Ujama Construction. I'm not sure if you know of them, but they're there. Jimmy Akintande. He is. He said, I said, well, how is it? Because I just talked to him. I said, well, can I get certified in Georgia? He said, yes, but make sure you have a team that's in Georgia because they do not want you to hop on a plane when you get a deal. I said, okay. So he gave me some good advice there to kind of make sure, because I do have some folks on the ground in Atlanta area to do some things, but I want to be strategic about it.
And you've mentioned this twice. Could you tell us what CBRE is?
Oh, I'm sorry. CBRE is it's just a large commercial firm, a global commercial firms, JLL, Cushman, and because people are, but so CBRE used to be CB Richard Ellis. Now they just CBRE. So people are shortening their names. I don't know if it's because they want to make their email, but it used to be CB Richard Ellis. JLL used to be Jones Lang LaSalle. So I don't know if partners are taking their stick out of the business and they just want to keep the name, the initials for branding, but JLL, Jones Lang LaSalle, Cushman Wakefield, because their email is Cushwake. So but I know they're not Cushwake, but sometimes they do CW. But that's just one of the. I think CB is the largest global firm. If not it's one of the largest firms, and they have a huge diversity supplier initiative, and that's kind of how I search out folks as well.
So when you land a government contract, what does that look like?
Well, first I do a dance, but you wanted me to go through the process before getting to the dance, or do you want to do it after the dance?
Let's go through the process before the dance.
So this is part of the process that people do not like about the process. It's called an RFP, request for proposal. Sometimes it's an RFI, request for information, which is not really a contract. They just want to put you on a list. And then they have an RFQ, a request for qualifications, which is also put you on the list. You qualify for something, a pool of people that we may use. But on all three, there are a list. Well, it's not a list. It's usually a thick document that has a list of qualifications of what they want from you, and it's usually in 2 to 3 pages at the most is really what you're looking for. So there's a scope of services section, and the scope of services section, I go to that and I'll say, what can I do under this? So it could be like, for instance, it was the proposal that came up for the vacant lot program. So vacant lot, anything real estate, I'm looking at, because usually I'll look at what department it comes out of. So Department of Housing, real estate, because oftentimes people think that it's just going to jump out at you. You have to find and figure out how to put yourself in that contract and tell people how you need to fit in there. So I will go through the scope of services. It was talking about valuing vacant land, and vacant land is the best thing to deal with no people. I'm like, what? So, and they have about, I think, 9,000 vacant lots, and they want it be revamped. And so they had the areas of the city, and it was the south and west side. So that I already knew that they needed somebody who deals with the neighborhoods, because those are part of the hardest hit underserved neighborhoods, but it's got the most vacant lots for opportunities for development. So then I start researching that. So I have a template that I work off of, but I look at the scope of services and I kind of dial down where can I fit in. There's also an area that they may have a pre-bid meeting. Now, the pre-bid meeting is golden, and if they have one, they've been on Zoom, but if they have one, you want to go, because then you'll see everybody who's going and you have a sign-in sheet. I always sign in my name, company, and next to my company, I'll put my certifications next to it because it's made to the public, and companies, I don't need them to search for me. I want them to say, oh, she signed in, she's MW, we need these, because they need them both. And so whatever they need, I want to make sure I'm quick and available. Even if I don't know what I can do for that job, sometimes companies will tell you, we need you for this little bit amount of work. We'll pay you 20 grand. And sometimes that foot in the door is what you need. So after that, you look at the contract, what is they want you to do? And this is where you have to have your documents ready. So you have to have your certification letter, because the dates are on there and they want to know when it expires, because they will not take it if they want to make sure that you are qualified to do the job and available. And then after that, references, your paperwork in a sense. So references on past work you've done in your bio, company write-up. So those are things that you need on every job. So I have a template that's always ready to go. And then there are certain forms you need to fill out. And a lot of firms do not know how to fill the forms out, but I help them in those forms because I've done this a million times. So those are just things that that's part of that. And then there's a submission due date. So that due date never changes. It changes, but you work, they don't take things a minute after. So whatever they need from you, you make sure you get it to them in a timely manner. Because I've heard of people not being asked to be on jobs because they've passed deadlines, or they're not that responsive. And as a small business, sometimes you may not have the bandwidth, but that's why I have a template to keep my bio up to date, my licenses up to date, like all that information. I just keep it readily available. And I actually have a link on my website that I've created a page. I'll just email it now to my clients, and they absolutely love it. So they was like, and so when you make it easy for them, they make it easy. I make it easy for them to ask me to be on the next job, because the people that are winning these deals are winning these deals on a consistent basis. They have a relationship with the city, and they know about these deals before they even come out to the public. So now that I've been doing it for a while with a few firms, they just usually ask me to be on their team. And if they're winners, then I'm a winner.
So you mentioned something about dates on your certification. How long does the certification last?
So in the city of Chicago, the certification lasts for 5 years, but every year you have to recertify. And recertify, that process is updating your taxes, sending your tax information. The Chicago Minority Supplier Diversity Council, CMSDC, which is under the national firm is MSDC. Their annual. I am just certifying with the Women's Business Center. Well, here is Women's Business Development Center, but the national brand is WBNEC, which certifies everyone. That's annually. And I have a state, most of them are annually, but every year you're submitting your no change affidavit, or meaning, have you changed partners? Have you change some financial status, that is like acquired a company, but you have to submit your taxes. That is probably, and I don't know, you've probably heard it too, like people say, oh, I don't want to get certified because there's so much paperwork. And that's the number one thing. But I look at it as those are things you should have for your business in order. And the government cannot give you a contract if you are behind on their taxes, because that would probably be front page news. So if Sarah Ware Realty Group was behind in my taxes or not paying them, and I get a $2 million contract with the city, you're looking at that like, where's my money? I'm paying money to a person that didn't pay taxes. So that's the biggest thing that people have an issue with. And I tell people, it's not that you have to have your taxes like paid. You can have them done. And if you owe taxes, make sure you're up to date on your payment plan. So I think that's the biggest draw away from the certification. Like one of the major draws. And when they say a lot of information, you do have to submit your bank statements. And those are just things you should just have anyway. And I think it's a good checklist from a business perspective.
So essentially, you need to have your business in order as well.
See, I didn't want to say that, but yes, you need to be a business. Be about your business if you're in business.
Right. A lot of times, we're in business.
Yes.
But we're not set up properly. So, like from my standpoint of a lender,
yes.
I see people who have businesses and They haven't done their taxes.
So is that a business? Do you consider that a business?
Right. Or their business funds goes into their personal account. So then you want us to separate the two because we have to source large deposits.
Right.
So like it makes it a lot more difficult for us as lenders. And I think that as business owners, we need something. So from the real estate standpoint that I come from, as a realtor first in the beginning, as I learned the business, I feel we need more education.
Yes.
I think, and I don't care who don't like it, I think there needs to be a harder barrier of entry to get into real estate, because too often people get into it for the glitz and the glam, and we work our heinies off. And it's not just working with clients, it's also working on your business. Because
Right.
who wants to be, and I'm sorry, who wants to be 75, 80 years old having to show houses because you weren't set up right as a business? And a lot of times we run into the situation where they call it commission breath.
Commission
And
breath?
that's commission breath because that
Really?
agent is on us as lenders or on the deal because they need to have that sale because they don't have any money. Because if you get 10 grand on a deal, it's all gone. You live that lifestyle. And I feel like, I heard statistic that realtors are now looked at worse than used car salesmen.
I know. I saw that. And the thing about it is when you put your commission before your client, that's actually a violation of the code of ethics. So, and that's one of the reasons I chose the path that I did. But I am from a business perspective, I am a hardcore, like, saver, because I understand the struggle of an entrepreneur, because I struggled. So I didn't like it when I struggled. I didn't like how it was. I had taxes, debt, I had all of the things. And so when I see people living these showy lives, that's great. That's just not my life as far as what I like to do. My car, I'm driving to the airport. That's where I'm trying, that's what I want to see. But I'm very, like, people come, like my friends know that, like, if they want to make a budget, they come to me. I said, listen, I'm not going to judge you, but if you really want to stick to a budget, because I'm very disciplined when it comes to that. And I think entrepreneurship requires a lot of discipline. So things that I do from a monetary perspective, I don't look at myself as a real estate professional. I look at myself as a business person, because from a business perspective, I never found, like, after I paid my taxes, because I will say, I just want to kind of give some context, because I don't want people to think that, I'm on here telling this story, I'm doing all this, I was like, okay, I got $20. Like, it was some, you can save and you can do all these things to be in business for yourself. But when you are an entrepreneur, and because one agent came to me, she was like, "Oh, Sarah, it's so hard. Have you ever thought about going back to work?" I said, I was thinking about that every day at one point. So that like, I think people think that that's an L. Like, if that's what you need to do, that's what you need to do. But I want to set myself up. If I'm going back to work, I want to be able to pay my bills working at McDonald's. I don't want to have to be a slave to a car. Like, I haven't had a car probably since 2007. That's something I'm never going to have. And so I loosely followed Dave Ramsey when it came to debt. I know a lot of people, it is what it is, but I am a zero debt person. I will pay, because I know I had when I say a huge tax bill, it probably was in the six figures. And when we all want to know, like, those listening may know what that white envelope looks like that you toss to the side when it comes to your house that you don't want to open, and they stack up. And I tell people, I'm telling you, you need to talk to the IRS. I don't want to say they're your friend, but if you are in debt and you really want to make a concerted effort to get out of debt, they talk to them, come up with a plan and stick to it. And then I worked in real estate. I worked and it was after my after my business partner and I split up, and that's a whole nother podcast, business partnerships. So after I split up, I was single, and you have people have to understand when people are single and people are married, they have a whole nother set of different lifestyles. So if you're in partnership or you're trying to compete with somebody who may have a husband that has benefits, like I was paying healthcare, and there was points that I was like, oh my God, this is a lot. But I will say the thing that saved me was getting out of debt. So I worked for probably 3 years straight. I kind of took a deep breath because it got overwhelming, and it can, debt can weigh on you. And so I think this was probably 2014, like when I started, right before I started my own company, when we split ways, I had thought about going back into corporate America because I was like, this is not for me. It's not producing what I wanted to. I was doing well from enough, but well enough to just survive. And I was like, is that what I want to do? Survive when I could be making more money. And so I kind of sat down, wrote everything down, opened all my debt and then said, where am I? What do I need to do? And so I sat, and I think I worked so hard for 3 straight years, paid everything off. I've never filed an extension. I have a 6-figure because I paused my retirement account. I never depleted that. I'm just glad I didn't have to do that. But I have a retirement that I'm funding. I opened me up a SEP. I made myself an employee. So I'm a W-2 employee. I pay quarterly taxes. So coming out of that taught me that you just run your own race for you. You're running against yourself. You're not running against Instagram. And I know it's hard to look at the lifestyle because a lot of people are not even living their own lifestyle. And so you need to just figure out what's best for you. And I'm not saying no shade to people that do that. My girlfriend works for McDonald's Corporation. They sell their cars every 5 years. I've been buying her car, and it's hysterical because I get a discount. I know her, she does everything that she, to that car. And so my old car to my brother, my sister wants my car that I have now because I'm about to get her next car. I may buy an electric car. I mean, but people are like, you can buy whatever you want. I'm like, but yeah, but these cars to me are nice. I go to Costco. So I think people need to run their own race. And when you're an entrepreneur, I don't care what profession you're in. When you are out of debt and you are able to make choices, that is when the best things happen for you, because you cannot operate in the right mind when you have a lot of things going on, a noise behind you. But that's our podcast number 2.
Got you. So you're in the commercial sector. You're getting these commercial deals.
Yes.
We've landed the commercial deal, and we do the dance.
Yes.
What's required of you in those deals?
So it's the same things required of me when I was selling houses. And I actually think it's a little less. And so I think that gave me a great foundation, because I tell people you can do a FHA deal or a NACA deal, or you can do anything, because commercial is so much easier because it's not emotion involved. So required of me when I'm working if I'm a team member, so it depends on what the structure of the deal is. So we sold a building downtown Chicago for City Colleges. It was their headquarters, $37 million. What was required of me? I went on about 4 to 5 showings with the building engineer, toured some people around, and I didn't do them all because it was about 7 of us. If they could make it, then I was like, sure. That would last for about 45 minutes. My commission was 6 figures because it was a commission. So I tell people to do the math. It's the commission for the sale, and I get 25% of that as my fee. So, yeah. So like it's one deal, like we just signed the vacant lot program. I think there's one, and all these contracts are public records. It's like 1.4. I think it had to be under 1.5. So CB put in like 1.49, and so that's 25% goes to me. And it's basically doing the things that we were doing as realtor members, as CMAs, and selling land and coming up with strategies behind that we do anyway. So that's what required. So I don't really do anything off of what I didn't do as a realtor, because I'm still acting as a realtor. It's just for a different client. I look at it from that perspective.
Got you. So how often are you a part of these deals?
So, and that's a great question, because part of certification, I think you need to look at the opportunity and look at how often the opportunity comes around. So different opportunities come around and it could be the city could put out 10 in a year, or sometimes they give it directly to the company. So the company would have to know what I do. So there's no set number of opportunities, but they come sometimes it's like COVID, it was a pause because there was a pause on government spending from that perspective, because they were just focusing on getting the country back up and running. But in a good year, I could probably be on 2 to 3 contracts. In a great year, which I'm having, like already I'm on like 5 contracts. That's unheard of, because I know the city is trying to catch up, and they're trying to do a lot of initiatives since the housing market was, the affordable housing market needs to be tapped into. And then from a commercial standpoint, they're turning a lot of commercial properties into affordable housing opportunities. So, and I've kind of widened my my pool of clients. And so now that it may have always been there, but since I'm out more and working with more clients, they know me and know what I work on. I think I'm getting more business because of that.
Gotcha. So one thing that I rarely see, and I've been around a little bit, is I don't see many of us in the commercial real estate space.
There are not that many of us in the commercial real estate as a whole. And so of course I get the questions when I go to these like when we're touring clients. So who are you? What do you do? Like the other side. So how did you get this deal? Gotcha. And I know what they're asking. So, and Cushman, like he was like, they're sales part of our team. Like, well, how does that work? They just basically want to know, how am I getting paid? And because I'm usually the one that's going to make the most money on the transaction, because firms, like, the company takes half the commission off the top, then they divide it up with the team members, and so I get paid on the full commission before it's even divided up. So I'm like, but you all have more opportunities than me, so I have to go back and forth with them. You chose that. If you want to come on my side, then come on. But I think they only look at the I tell people I'm an overnight success 15 years later, because I think people think that this is I did this like last year. I'm like, no. Yeah. I'm an overnight success 15 years later. So, but I still have the same mindset. If I need to go back to work, I will. But yeah, that's not happening. I'm good.
So do you think that those opportunities are more fruitful? Well, not more fruitful, more available in metropolitan areas, in Atlanta, Chicago, New York, a Baltimore, a DC, you know what I mean? Are those the type of areas that this fits better in, or do all cities or municipalities typically have these opportunities?
So every state typically has it. Like, I haven't researched each state, but states have them. But in Illinois, I'm focused on Chicago because I live in Chicago. There's a suburb of Evanston up north. I know they have a whole procurement process. So I just decided to stay in my lane. Out in West Chicago, they may have a rural initiative to kind of sell land, because the Illinois Department of Transportation, they could have a contract out. Like, I've worked on a contract with the Chicago Transit Authority, which is like the MARTA in Atlanta, but they're looking to extend the line, because people are like, what are you doing with CTA? I'm like, they're looking to extend the line. Like, at the end of the line, they have been talking about extending it out to other neighborhoods. So they wanted me to do searches for, like, do community outreach, talk to the communities out there, what developers, and they wanted to, who was flipping in those neighborhoods, what were the pricing. And so, like, I just finished a comp analysis, because they're looking to put a mixed use building in an area that is like a food desert. So they want to know who's their market around that. And as realtor members, we do that anyway. Why not get paid for it? And so I'm paid by the hour. And when you see people's hourly rates, because you think, like, sometimes I think I started with like $150, and I thought that was high. Please, $400, easy. And but sometimes that's still too low. Because when I submit my invoices, some companies, I'm like, Sarah, I need you to submit your invoice for more. Well, how much do you need it for? Because I think I need to go to a pricing analysis, an upcharge.
Hold on, Sarah. So, wow, like that's right up our alley as real estate professionals. Bill us for more.
Yes, and don't be discouraged. I just happen to live in Chicago, but I think there are opportunities in rural counties and rural areas. and I would just Google the municipality that is, and put in procurement opportunities. And once you start looking at them, it'll tell you what their commitment is to diversity. And now that's like a new, a buzzword, so to speak. And so they've kind of lumped in certification. And so there's a lot of organizations that are committed to help people get certified and find opportunities. So I tell people to start with their small business development center. That way they can Google that and see anyone in their area. I'm sure there's one close to them. And then with that, they can start the process of seeing if that's right for them, or because like I said, it's a lot of work. And I'm like, well, having a business is a lot of work. So I'm prepared to do a lot of work anyway. So no matter where you get your business from, I use that as a funnel for business, even though it's a large part of my business. There are opportunities that are sent out for proposals that are public, that are private, because I just responded to one that was a private company. They're not as long, but I'm prepared to submit on those as well. And they always say, we are committed to diversity. If you are certified in some areas, please let us know, although it's not a requirement. So it could show up like that without having to have your certification. But if you have it, they'd be appreciative. And then some of them are, they call self-certified. So if you're a woman and you can prove that, or if you're a woman of color, or whatever your ethnicity is, that you can prove if it falls into a bucket of certification or minority status, and you can prove that, they are open to that. And you can say that in your proposal if you have a certification or not.
So I asked you what was required of you, right? And you answered. What is their commitment to you?
It depends on the client. Okay. So some of them, there may not be a commitment, because their commitment is because some people, and I'm okay with people with their thoughts, because some people do not like to go after minority business. They want to be on their own merit. And I get that. Some people are like, no, why do I have to prove that I'm this? Why don't they? And they don't have to. And I get all of that. This is just what I have chosen as a business avenue for me. So some, like Cushman, they have extended their commitment. They actually had their IT department, their HR department, and their accounting department help me set up all that for my when I was turning myself into a full employee. I was an LLC. They helped me change that to an LLC, being taxed as an S Corp. And they walked me through all of that from an HR standpoint. They gave me a lot of documents. So sometimes it's not just monetary, because I can call on them. And if I have a question that I may not know, then from an HR standpoint, they have an attorney on staff that I can tap into without being charged to bill the rate. So that was their commitment to me. CBRE, their commitment to me is, we will not, if you fall within the bucket, you are always our first choice unless you don't want to do it. So, and then they have included me on deals that do not require a certification. So once you get in that space, they have given me deals that's too small and, from them to take, they have forwarded to me. And, so that's the relationship that I look for, because I get it. They need certification. They need participation for them to win this deal. If I can serve that, it works for me. So some people, that doesn't work for them. They're like, how come I can get hired on my merit? And that's fine.
Right. And you said something that was key. And as you were talking, I said, it sounds like once you're there and you do a good job, that relationship is key.
Always touch base. We go out and when there's a big deal and I know I'm getting paid more than everybody, I'm taking everybody out for dinner. We pop bottles. So, and they like that. And like one of them, I know he makes probably $1 million a year. I know his wife, I know his daughter in Italy. So it's like a personal relationship, because once, because we all know it's not rocket science. People, we can do the job, but once people like you, trust you, then, and have that personal connection, that's what I like. I like to have a personal connection, which is why I spend so much time networking and kind of get to know the person, because sometimes people, we don't gel. I was on a huge contract that I jumped off of because it didn't speak to my mission and it was not good for me. And the funny part about it is they got thrown off like shortly after I got off. So I knew ahead of time, because as a minority business, the thing that does rub me the wrong way. I have more at stake than the large companies. If the large companies do something, they just get thrown off the deal. That if my certification is off, then my reputation is blown. My business is, you know, that's a large part of my business that I would have to rebuild and rebrand.
Gotcha. What type of growth opportunities do you think there are in this space based off where you are now?
Oof. So I don't know if you've been to like a seminar or heard an agency come out and talk about the $1 billion of opportunities available in the federal government. So that, yes, is true, but is it available in the space that you want to be in? So I think from real estate, the opportunities are endless. Like that is a $1 billion industry because um, the government is the largest holder of real estate. Every government building, they already own their building. They have. So think of all the services just in that space alone. Then when you think of the elected officials, what they need, then they're talking to their, from a food catering, the lunches when you go into meetings, when you're doing trainings. So if whatever space you in, understand and see if you can sell that to the government, if that's what you desire. So I started locally. I'm doing that at the state. I think I'm going to go for the 8A. That's like the national certification. It's called 8A, and it only lasts for 9 years. I'm like, that's probably about all I got left. So I might as well go for it. But I do have a meeting set up with the SBA to see if that works. And that's free. That's a free certification.
Wow. Right. So I am a minority-owned business that is looking to break into the commercial space. What would be my first step? What would be your suggestion of my first step to do?
Kind of narrow that statement down into something in the commercial space, because I had to narrow that down for people. I am in the commercial space when it comes to government entities, because people send me stuff all the time. Hey, I'm looking for a store. Hey, I got a business I want to start. That is not the space that I'm in. So I think narrow down the statement to write down exactly the niche market that you want to be in, and then right behind that, what does that look like? I mean, are you starting in where does that look? Where is that? Is that in a city? Do you want to make an area or a radius behind a zip code or a state? Like, what is it that you want to do? Then I would look through the certifications that you plan on getting, because there's a contract history. You can look at all the one contracts. It may take some time. This is why I tell people to talk to the small business development centers, because they can help you sift through what the potential opportunity is for you. And look at that and see how realistic is that for me. And I tell people, don't get caught up, because it's probably realistic for you. So, and don't overthink it though. Don't overthink it, and just start the process. Start moving ahead by, when you're looking at your niche market, I would say get certified, start looking at contracts. If you see even if you don't think you qualify, I tell people, go to the meeting just to meet the people. And then agencies have trainings all the time. I think I'm gonna start some sort of TikTok, or I got to figure out how to do that. But like 30 to 60-second snippets on, I get so much information on trainings that are free, like from SCORE, SBA, and just directing people in that direction. And there's no overload on education. You can sit through a webinar. It talks about all different types of things. And I think that training, and get your mind used to that, because when you feeding yourself positive things, because I don't want people to talk themselves out of it, because that's what we can do easily. But once you start feeding yourself positive thoughts and about something that you want to do, then you naturally are drawn to educating yourself more about that, just to find out what's in that space. And then you'll be blown away. And then you're like, wow, why didn't I do this months ago or years ago, or not?
Because we hear about it, right?
We hear about it, but I think we hear about it. And I have searched for a group of people to network with that has our license. So, because I'm sure there's some different growing pains that we all have. I just went to a women's luncheon at CREW Chicago, commercial real estate for women, it's CREW is the acronym. But There was it was a good panel of two large firms and two small firms. And so that was refreshing. That's why I was so crowded. So I was like, we need to create a space around it. I don't think there's anything on Clubhouse. I've searched and searched. People don't really talk about the certification process as far as I don't want to say the struggle, but some of the challenges that we just have.
And it goes back to, we discussed, there's like 1.5 million realtors.
Right.
7% of those are African American. And I think 65% of those are women.
Yeah.
So we're talking about under 70,000 people of African American descent that are realtors. And I think that when you look at the commercial space, like, okay, let's be honest, out of the 1.5 million, you're the only African American commercial person I know.
Most commercial practitioners are not part of the National Association of
Realtors.
Because when I was first licensed, I was not part of I was not a realtor, because you're only a realtor if you are part of that trade association. So they're just licensees, which is nothing, but that's all you have to be for commercial. And I will say this, and this is the number one question I get asked by realtors. You cannot be licensed under a brand and get certified. So you can't work for broker A and have your license under them. So the way to sum this up, if you're not signing or writing checks, then for the company, then no. But you can own a franchise, and if you're 51% owner of that franchise, you are absolutely able to do that. So if you own a franchise, you're 51% ownership. If you're a woman, minority, you can definitely be a part of that certification. Because I actually had thought about buying a franchise at one point, and I was like, nah. But you have to, it depends on how you want to use that. Because I think it's a girl, Tiffany, out of Dallas, Berkshire Hathaway. She has a commercial division. I think she's the only person who owns a Berkshire Hathaway franchise, African American woman, and she's in Texas, Houston. She's killing it.
Can we get Tiffany on the show?
She's not certified. Oh yeah, Tiffany. Look Tiffany Curry up. Yeah, Tiffany Telesera's told me, but I met her through volunteerism. So I met her at the conferences. And you what they say, you wants to get something done, ask the busiest person in the room. So when people always say, I want to meet with you, especially realtors, I'm like, hey, come to this next conference. Like, I'll be at the conference in Orlando. So, I don't need people to take me to lunch. Trust me, I'm trying to lose these COVID pounds now, but I'm always willing to share, because so much has been poured into me over the years. It's from a business sense. And I think part of that is because I give so much of my time just talking to different people. And if I say one thing, and they don't have to be certified, I just want people to do better business as African Americans, because our wealth gap is so wide, and I don't even know if it'll ever catch up. So I just want us to, just make smarter choices and to have success, whatever that looks like.
The next question is that while I've talked to the SBA,
mm-hmm.
I've honed in on what my niche is.
Okay.
Where do I learn of the opportunities?
They're all online. So most organizations, like Chicago, every entity has a portal, like the housing authority, like the Chicago Housing Authority, City of Chicago. So where you are, you just like CHX, like Atlanta actually had a proposal that I want to go after. I just wasn't certified, but it was with their HUD house. I think HUD put it out, and it was like a housing development. They wanted a realtor member to come in, a realtor. Well, it was written like a realtor, but somebody to come and help sell their property. I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. I need to be certified. That's why I knew I need to hurry up and get certified in Georgia. But Atlanta Housing Authority put something out. So that makes me know. And I went on their website, and they have a few opportunities, and it could be, I was actually on a proposal that an attorney one, because they were help certifying people to get people helping underserved people to get their certification. I was on there to come and speak to the class. So I got paid to speak about certifications on a monthly basis. So like things like that, because I'm certified, and then you just have to figure out what makes you qualified in this. I was like, oh, well, and then the volunteerism, like I pulled my volunteerism into it with what I did. And and then they knew me, the attorney knew me. So they was like, yeah, she's absolutely qualified. So, but I think they need, but it died down, but I think they absolutely need to get more into that. So there's so like, I was like, Atlanta, actually, one of my certifications they take is reciprocity. So you'll find that once you certify once, you use the same information for all the rest.
Got you. So we can go online.
You can go
I guess
online.
in this case, Google is our friend.
Google is your best friend. Hey, best friend. Hey, best friend.
Do you think that, so let's say we've done all of that.
Okay.
We've got certified.
Mm-hmm.
We've Googled it. Now we see the paperwork.
Yeah.
That's in front of us. Do you think that's what weeds out?
Oh, absolutely. It sometimes weeds me out. Because depending on what I have going on and what they want, do I have the time to put into it for maybe? Because nothing's guaranteed. Right. And then you may want to do some research on who had the contract before you. So I have to say, is this a real contract? Because they have to send out the renewals anyway, because the contracts expire. So are they renewing and keeping on the same team, or are they really looking for somebody new? So then that's when you have to look at, you call people or the person that asked you to be on it, or you just see if there's a change in leadership of actually the organization. Like, is there a new mayor? That could be a shift. Is there a new, so you have to kind of, read between some of the lines. But if it's a good contract, you just have to, but you won't know until you apply, because if you don't apply, you just assume not. But you have to figure out and weed through what is going to take your time, because most small businesses, we're doing this, we're doing it all. So
you said you have to own it. So I want to digress for a second. So I can't be with Big Box Realty Group. I need to be with such as a Ware Realty Group in order to apply for the grants.
No, when you say the grants, no, in order to
be certified.
Yes.
To be certified as a, let's say, minority owned business.
Yes.
Right. You can't. Why? Because technically you're an independent contractor.
Right. But they want you to be the big box. That's the goal, is to bring you to a large corporation to be competitive. So because in essence, if you're an independent contractor, those contracts are not yours. They're the big box.
Right.
Like I think a lot of people think like, that's my house I'm selling. No, that's the broker. So if you leave, they keep it. Unless you have paper, you can get into the nuances. But the short of it is, all the listings belong to the broker, and you're paid by the broker. They decide on what you get. So
that's a whole another podcast, like you said.
Because that's the number one question. What if they tell me all these scenarios? Companies have come up to me, said, we've talked to our attorneys, and they said, well, have they talked to the city? Tell me how that works. It doesn't. We have a whole team, a whole minority team. Are they certified, or you just have a minority team? Like, I've heard it all. I'm telling you, come over here. You can do that here. So if I get a $500,000 check, that's not coming to me, right? You have to get it, and then you have to decide on what I get. I can go get a job. Like, no, that's not working for me. And I'm not against working for a brokerage. That's just not. Because I figured if I wasn't certified, I probably would work that because it works better for me. But because being an owner, it takes it's a different type of responsibility. So I do not I don't want to be on here saying I think the big box broke, but I think there's a need for everybody to play, which works for the diversity of business. But you can say, I could say, hey, big box, let's I partner in essence with a big box real estate company. So I work with them so we can work together because they say, hey, let's go after this. We'll give you, you can take the 25% minority piece and we'll do the rest. So you can be a broker in a large firm and say, you know what? Like I tell people, ally yourself with a minority brokerage firm because that's how I get a lot of deals. Because some brokers, they refer me deals, and I'll pay a referral fee for the deal if I get the deal. So I got to refer a realtor referred me to the broker for selling the Chicago public closed schools. So I paid them referral.
Okay.
So I tell people, look at all the opportunities and say, like, if say for instance HUD had that out, and you could be like, wow, I need to find a minority broker to partner with. We'll take the heavy lifting, and then we'll hire this person. We can both come in together and show, because a big box broker could have all the strength, the outreach to the community, and have the what they really want to see, and then they show that they partner with another firm, like a mentor protege type conversation or a JV on this one deal, and then that even looks better. And just imagine, because you always have to think, how can the government spin this story to be positive? So if they look great, then the big box broker looks great, and then they've kind of brought another one along, and like, oh wow, this is a great relationship. And then if you want to be the broker on the deal, it's like, hey, I brought this business in, but I want to make sure XYZ and work that.
Do they ever ask for your real estate license?
Every time. I have to show that. That's why you can't do it, because they want my sponsoring broker license and my broker license.
Okay.
And it has to be up to date. Because I just got asked yesterday for one, because that means I'm getting a check soon. When they ask, I'm like, oh, here comes a check. They want to make sure I'm still licensed.
What can we do to push forward an initiative or to get this information out to more African American, Black, minority, whatever you want to call it, real estate professionals?
And when you say we, you mean you and me?
Just in general. I think let's be real, we're underserved in all facets of real estate.
So I thought about that. I think part of the issue is, I think the government, from a marketing standpoint, is their marketing efforts may not be what the marketing efforts are of today. So in my mind, it looks the government would issue an RFP of a firm to come in to help promote what are your thoughts around promoting the certification process? To me, that looks like a huge social media campaign. That looks like partnering with a lot of organizations or having some influencers in the market, influencers of small minority-owned businesses talking about it, and people can see themselves as that. So if you have a restaurant owner that may do a lot of certification when it comes to catering, having them talk about their experiences and just pushing that out to social media, because once you hear, I think we're more visual, and that could be quick 30 to 60 second snippets of just, what is, because you're in Georgia. So when an election is out, they get the word out. So something like a campaign, an ongoing campaign of that, because if you're always talking about things that you've done in the community and you're making an impact on the small business community, I think that is a positive. So crafting how we tell our story, which is why I'm going to start like doing some videos about that, or just kind of answering small snippets of questions, because I think they'll look at me like, oh, wait a minute. Back taxes? Yes, girl. Back taxes, that white envelope that we put to the side. And you'd be like, okay, let me just open one of these, because you already know what's in it, because it increases every month. How was that tackled? What should you do? I want to get certified. How do I look? Where do I go? And then just talking about different conferences that I go to, and they're all free. I'm going to this one conference in New York next month that I was invited to, and it's like at Columbia University, and that's free. Like, everything's free. So that's because I was part of an education program. And as you get more business and you become to be like, I'm a small business, but I'm at a dollar amount that gets me a little bit more access to things and a little bit more resources. So like this conference, it's not for the, hey, I'm trying to start a business, because that's part of the space that, that's flooded. People kind of know how to start a business. I'm looking for that. Okay, I have a business. We're trying to grow, to the 7 figures, and then, up towards that. So like they have sessions for those and it's a smaller group, but they are making an intentional effort to kind of help business get to that 7+ figure. And then people that are at the 7 and 8, they want to get them up to, higher. So because I'm looking at them as to making myself push harder, but the people that starting want to push themselves up too. So it's kind of like a, push pull, not me up. They push me up, I pull somebody else up. So that's kind of what I'm looking at.
Gotcha. As you say that, the social media piece, that sounds like a potential government contract.
That's what I was like, why is that out? So I said, let me just create one, and then I can. That's how I'm like, let me create some content, and then I could say, hey, and out of that one piece, it could be somebody who's responsible for editing, it could be somebody responsible for podcasting, like all these different things. That's a whole contract to me. And it may be one out there. It's just not real estate. So I may need to look for it and say, but I think they need to be on a local standpoint, because they always come out to talk to people for free. But why is that not a series? Why is that not talked about?
Thank you for watching the Real Estate Proverbs podcast with Kevin Jefferson. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel so you can be notified when the latest video drops.